confidence comes from doing the thing. So often we want to build up our confidence before we go do whatever the thing is that we want to do. We want to make sure we have all the knowledge, all the certifications, all of the mindset hacks. And I do believe you want to have enough of that to feel at least a little bit confident, so you know what you're talking about, so that you're not trembling and crazy afraid to go talk about something or do something. But we have to get over this idea that we need to have all of it before we can do the thing. Welcome to the Energy Within podcast, helping you to embrace your weirdness, beat imposter syndrome, and take action on your soul's purpose. My name is Carrie Jokala. I am your host. I am a Reiki master teacher, a fitness instructor, a wife, a mom to 2 little boys, and this is episode 179. And here we are in the car again. And probably still will be for another couple months. Things are moving along just very slowly. So one day I will have my usual podcasting setup ready in my house again. But until then, here we are in the iPhone and here we are in the car. Maybe one day I'll find the time to be able to actually record on my iPhone in my house, because that's what's going to happen when I have the podcasting set up. So I may as well try to start doing it with the iPhone, but that would require better planning on my part as far as the timing of when I record. But I'm glad you're here with me. I'm glad you've been here with me on this journey. If you are new, welcome. Today I want to talk specifically about the taking action on your soul's purpose part of things. Helping you to grow your confidence, and in turn growing my own confidence, is a huge part of why I do this, what my mission is. Because if you know any part of my story, you know that confidence is one of the main things that I struggled with, and don't want to claim that I've completely mastered, but I know I am light years ahead of where I used to be. And I believe that it is a fluid journey. There's no final boss level where we defeat the last obstacle to our confidence and then we are fully 100% confident all the time for the rest of our lives. That just doesn't happen. Instead, it's about being conscious of how we're feeling, being conscious of how we're choosing to feeling, how we're choosing to react to the things that happen to us, for us, however you want to describe it, whether or not we have a victim mindset or a more open, positive growth mindset, and then finding ways to effectively close the gap between the start of any low confidence feelings or reactions and our ability to build our confidence back up and return back to our new set point. And before I move on from that, I always want to make sure I note there is no right or wrong length of time for how long it should take you to bounce back from having a dip in your confidence. It's going to be different depending on where you are in your journey. It's going to be different depending on what happens. You could be extremely far along in your journey, but something major could still happen that's a huge blow to your confidence that's going to take you longer to bounce back. But the key is, are you conscious of it? And are you staying aware of what you're thinking, how you're acting, what you're doing, so that you're not staying in it for longer than necessary? And only you know how long is necessary. I don't advocate for pretending that things are okay. when we know they're not, for pretending we don't feel sad or that we don't feel confident. I did a whole bunch of episodes on the idea of fake it till you make it. I'm not a big fan of that. In some situations, on some level, it can be helpful, but I don't think it's a good overarching philosophy to adopt as a way to build your confidence. But anyway, the point of today is taking that action. If I'm honest, one of the most frustrating things for me to see, and I'm sure because I have also and still do sometimes struggle with this myself, but it's seeing people have these ideas, want to do something bigger, and they just instead get stuck in this loop of basically keeping themselves down, where you keep telling yourself that you're not good enough, nothing you do works, it's never going to happen. You tend to get frustrated maybe because you feel like you're doing the same things that all the successful people who are doing the same thing that you want to do seem to be doing, and yet it doesn't work for you. Trust me, I've been there, and sometimes I'm still there. And let me repeat, I am not a millionaire yet. I might not even be close, but I'm still putting that yet on there because I'm opening the possibility for that to happen. But I have made considerable progress, especially based on the no progress or extremely minimal progress that I made prior to starting to do Reiki and actually becoming fully committed to what I'm doing, to always talking about what I'm doing, to not be afraid to pitch, to talk to people about what I'm doing. And the main thing is I keep proving to myself, one of my actual favorite reels that I've ever done that actually got a decent amount of traction, the only thing it really said is confidence comes from doing the thing. So often we want to build up our confidence before we go do whatever the thing is that we want to do. We want to make sure we have all the knowledge, all the certifications, all of the mindset hacks. And I do believe you want to have enough of that to feel at least a little bit confident, so you know what you're talking about, so that you're not trembling and crazy afraid to go talk about something or do something. But we have to get over this idea that we need to have all of it before we can do the thing. So, personal story time. We just completed the final week of my Unshackled program. It's the first original program that I've ever created. And I wasn't sure how it was going to go. I wasn't sure if I was going to have people that wanted to join. I wasn't sure if I was going to be showing up for one person or 20 people. I ended up with 4, which was amazing. And everybody was so committed. Everyone showed up. Everyone did the work. And there were some amazing shifts and transformations that have happened as a result of this program. And even though I'm the one who created this program, who put everything together, who was the leader and ran everything, I'm still pretty mind blown that it even happened. Because years ago, anytime I would try to do anything, like everything I tried to do bombed. No one signed up for anything. When I was actively doing network marketing, I struggled so hard to get anyone to sign up for much of anything. I would have a few little successes here and there, but nothing I was ever able to maintain. So there were lots of big ups and downs, and mostly downs. So to now not only have something original that I created, but to also actually have people showing up for it puts you in a completely different mindset, because it's hard to feel like you are a real business owner when all you have is an idea. and you don't have any feedback on it, you don't have any results to tell anybody about, to share, you don't have testimonials because you don't have clients, you don't have people going through whatever you're trying to take them through. So it can be really hard to adopt that growth mindset, which makes sense. We can't fault any of ourselves for having a little bit of a victim mindset and not really fully embodying the entrepreneurship journey when we're not even fully able to implement or do what it is that we even want to do. I get that part. When it's dependent on having other people, it makes it challenging for your energy and for your mindset. But speaking from experience, I want to encourage you truly to keep showing up anyway. The more you show up, the more people are going to start seeing that you're showing up. That's when they'll finally pick up on what it is that you do. That's when they'll finally pick up on what you can help them with, and they'll start to realize that you're the person to go to for whatever it is that you do. I think I've said this a few times before, but let me repeat. I've heard this before from marketing experts that it takes anywhere from 6 to 12 months for people to pick up on what you do. And that means consistently showing up for 6 to 12 months, not showing up here and there whenever you feel like it, on random occasions, a couple times a month. That's not enough. It's got to be super consistent. It has to almost be the only thing you talk about, not in a sales pitch way all the time, but showing up, sharing your own stories if you don't have other people's testimonials to share. Showing up and doing live videos as many times as it takes, even if no one is showing up. It still varies for me. If I hop in my Facebook group unannounced, even announced to do live card pulls or a group Reiki session, I could have a really amazing handful of people show up, like a decent sized handful of people show up, or I could still have nobody. And it's really important to learn how to not take that personally, because that can really mess with your energy. And I've had that before. And I've deleted those videos in the past where I noticed, even in the moment, my own energy drop a little bit because nobody was there. I've learned how to be ready to show up as if I'm doing a recording for people to watch on the replay. I still want it to be exciting live. I still want it to feel good as a live video in case someone does still pop on in the middle of it. But I've learned most people tend to watch the replay anyway. And then that's when I get the messages. That's when I all of a sudden started getting messages after the first few times, and I was trying really hard not to be sad and upset that I couldn't get people to show up because people were watching the replay and they were messaging me all of a sudden. If I hadn't shown up, I wouldn't have been able to affect them with the Reiki that I did or the group card pull that I did, because I always start with the collective. So that's kind of my buffer, my barrier, just in case I don't get somebody. I still do it even if I have everybody showing up right away. I still do a collective card pull in the beginning. That's just my process. But it also helps because I'm like, okay, here's the collective. It looks like that's where we're going to leave it today. Leave a comment, send me a message, let me know if this resonated, and then I just leave it at that. So you can find your own tricks to help you feel comfortable showing up even when no one else is showing up in the moment for you. But it's the showing up and doing the thing that will build your confidence over time. The more you do it, the less scary it gets. And I don't care how many times you've heard that, how cheesy you might think it is. It's the honest truth. The more you do it, the less scary it gets, because each time you get better and each time you realize what you need to work on and how you can continue to get better, and you also realize that you didn't die, that you're okay, that nothing fell apart, that you can always get back up and try again. And even if you were struggling, most people are actually going to be kind and supportive. Maybe we need to do another whole episode on mean people. I haven't encountered too many mean people myself, but maybe that'll be an important topic to cover next week. Maybe that's what we'll do next week. That wasn't really a tangent, but man, I go off on a lot of tangents, don't I? I'm glad you're still here with me. But to return specifically to the example of me doing this Unshackled program, which leads into the Boundaries Intensive that I led, the Supportive Feminine. I had to switch cars, and there's something up with the steering wheel. Sorry if you can hear that. But anyway, I noticed a shift in myself in running this program, where I really became more confident because I needed to make sure that I was the one showing up with value to deliver, that I was confident in what I was going to be leading these ladies through, so that they felt safe, because it was all around the root chakra, which is all about feeling safe and secure. So I had to make sure I was creating that environment for them to feel safe to come in and do this energy work that we were doing, to do these even more 3D real world exercises that we were going to do. And I really noticed a shift when it was time to do the Supported Feminine, because I knew this was going to be a big thing. This was a 4-hour experience that started off the first couple hours with me sharing insights, sharing tips, sharing stories, being ready for questions, and knowing that I was doing this not just for the women who were there live, but that I wanted to be saving this recording to make it available to anyone who needed the same experience but just missed the live experience. So I really needed to be on my A game. I tried not to put too much extra pressure on myself, because I still wanted to be myself. Just the best possible version of myself in the course of those few hours. And it felt good. I feel like it went really well. But what was really interesting was when we had the final session for Unshackled. So the intensive was on a Saturday, and then our next session was the following Thursday. So a few days had passed in between. But I felt so different even showing up for that last session. It was no longer the intensive. It was going to be the normal hour. We went a little bit over, maybe a lot a bit over, but I noticed I was already showing up differently in that session as a result of having done that Boundaries Intensive. So if I hadn't shown up for that program, and if I hadn't shown up for that intensive, I don't know that I would have experienced this shift. I would have still been sitting here in idea mode, trying to mentally get myself into the space that I feel like I'm in now. And while on one hand, in an energetic sense, I do believe it's possible to make that shift that way with just your energy and just your mindsets, but it's that much more powerful if you can combine it with taking the action, doing the thing. So to go quickly again into that example of what if no one's showing up? What if no one's signing up for your program that you want to run? What if no one's showing up for your live videos? Find some way to do either that thing or some version of that thing anyway. I told myself specifically this Boundaries Intensive, and I think it was more powerful because I did have people there, but I told myself I was ready, that if no one showed up, if no one was able to be there live, I was still going to show up with the same energy that I would have if there had been 100 people there live. And not in a way where I'm pretending for the recording that I had people there if I didn't. But to just show up with that same energy. A really good example too, again, I tie everything back to group fitness, the other thing that I enjoy doing, that I've been doing for a long time. It takes a long time to build a class. And in my early days of teaching, when I was still figuring out my groove as an instructor, what I would notice happen with classes is a lot of people might show up for the first one, shiny object syndrome. Here's the new thing. Here's the new class. Everybody wants to try it. And then if you were like me and you were good, but you didn't have a ton of experience, it can be a little bit harder to keep all those people there. And then to really build that class, to really build up a core of regulars who are coming to your class every week, or at least most of the weeks, it takes a long time. They say the same thing there, 6 to 12 months to build a class. And especially when you're teaching pre-choreographed classes like I started off teaching, where you have to do the choreography with everybody, which also means you have to be super high energy, and you have one person show up and they actually want to stay and do the class, it can feel really awkward, because those kinds of classes are kind of designed in mind that you're going to have at least a handful of people there to share that energy. So it's really hard to show up when it's only one person with that same energy, because you still want them to come back, because maybe that person will bring somebody else next week or tell somebody about it, so more people will start showing up. If you can't keep that one person there, that makes it even harder, because then you have nobody. But that actually, you know what, leads me to another piece of advice for if it feels like things aren't working, even if you are legitimately trying to show up and do the thing. I started off teaching Turbo Kick. I taught at a couple different studios. I taught at the gym that I'm still teaching at now. And it started off a lot of people trying it. And then it dwindled. And I had a few small ebbs and flows. I did develop a small group of regulars, but not a lot. We switched formats at the gym that I'm teaching at now, the one I started at, but it was in the same time slot. I do believe the time slot worked against me a little bit, but I was also still a really brand new instructor. And that one didn't grow either. I think I kept the same regulars from the previous format. And at a couple of the other studios that I taught at, things just weren't growing. I think one of the studios, her studio itself just wasn't growing, and she shut it down. And the other studio, I think, eventually did shut down too, but I actually was, I guess for lack of a better term, let go prior to that happening, because my class wasn't growing. And she felt really bad about it. But financially, I can't blame her. It didn't make sense for her to keep paying me when people weren't coming in to pay her to take the class. So here I was down to the corporate fitness place that I was teaching at, had a decent amount of people signing up for that class, and that actually did start to grow over time, but it took a while. It took a lot more experience for me to get before that started growing, before word started spreading. And here at the gym that I still teach at, when things just weren't going well, fortunately, the Group X director had enough belief in me to try to figure out some solutions, because she believed that I was a great instructor and she didn't want to lose me. She specifically said those words to me. And okay, what else can we do? What if we try a different day? What if we try a different time? Which led to trying that different format, which led to, what about a completely different format? And funnily enough, she happened to suggest Insanity, which I was actually already signed up, which I had signed up for at the last minute almost to go get certified in. That training was coming up a couple days after she suggested it, because she had been at something where she noticed that training was happening wherever she was at, and there were a lot of people there. And she suggested, what if we tried that? Would you be interested in that? Oh, guess what? By the way, I'm already getting certified in that. So I believe the same week, 2014, we launched Insanity, and we also launched my Friday morning PIO class, which, if you've heard my story before, I'm still teaching that PIO class. And technically, even though it's not Insanity anymore, I'm still teaching a fairly similar format in the same time slot on Monday nights. But Insanity, a lot of people showed up, for that first class, which was amazing and didn't make any sense because it was like negative 26 degrees outside. Who would be expecting? I think I had like 24 people show up, which was the most I had ever had, I think, outside of my first Turbo Kick class. So it had been a couple years since I'd had that many people in a class. And I showed up with as much confidence as I possibly could, trusting in my experience up to that point, knowing that I could not only effectively lead this workout, but also make it really fun. I not only kept the majority of those people and continued to bring in more, but they actually even asked for the longer version of class, because we started off with the short version because we knew it was hard. It's a challenging class. A couple weeks into it, they asked for the longer class. So we moved it to a different studio. We started doing the longer format. And my PIO class had some ebbs and flows, but it's my longest running class. And I get a really good group of people every single week. So the lesson there, translate that to doing the thing that you want to do. Don't give up, but maybe be open. Not maybe, do be open to changing your approach. Just change what you're doing. Try something different in how you're trying to reach people. To go to an example with Reiki, I realized at one point, fortunately pretty early on, that just making posts talking about that I was learning Reiki, sharing a little bit about what Reiki is and what it had been doing for me and how I was hoping to use it. I still wasn't super niched down yet. I don't feel like I'm quite as niched down yet all the way, but I'm a lot more than I was in the beginning, because it was still Reiki can help you with everything. Come see me for anything. And I wasn't really getting any traction. I had some testimonials because I had done some free sessions for people that I personally reached out to ask if they would do those sessions. I didn't just post and wait for people to come to me. I reached out and said, hey, can I do a free Reiki session for you? Something I had never done really with any other business before. But that was when I realized that wasn't working, that just the making the posts and whatnot wasn't working. I realized people still just weren't understanding what it was. It wasn't that I wasn't good or couldn't get better at what I was doing. It was that I needed to show people. So I started showing up doing group Reiki in my Facebook group. I started showing up doing live card pulls. And people showed up for that. And then sometimes they didn't. But then I would get the messages about what doing the Reiki in the recording, in the replay, had done for them and the experience that they had from that. And that was my encouragement to keep showing up. I can't promise, obviously, that the exact same type of thing is going to happen for you, but try. Just try something. And if it doesn't work, don't give up. Don't be afraid to try it again, but also be open to just trying something a little different. And be okay with showing up as yourself. Be okay with doing things your way. Don't feel like you have to feel tied to any marketing or business advice that all the experts seem to be giving. There's another lesson there too. And I'm not a business coach, but trust your intuition and make it fun for you to show up. If you're feeling dread because you feel like you have to, that's a sign that maybe you don't necessarily need to do something completely different, but maybe you do. But maybe you just need to shift something about what you're doing around it, how you're showing up, changing something about your approach. But you gotta keep going. You gotta take action. Your confidence only grows when you show up and do the thing that you think you need the confidence for. The beginning's gonna suck. It maybe not, maybe it won't, but in comparison to where you're going to be, in comparison to where you're going to end up, when you look back and you're like, wow. But you can't start to make that shift until you show up and prove to yourself that you can do it. I hope that all made sense. I hope that was helpful. If it was, please reach out and send me a message and let me know. Please share it on your social media. Tag me when you do. Make sure you tag the account I am Carrie Jokala. And jump into the Energy Within Facebook group, because while I don't do it on a regular schedule, I do still jump in there for group Reiki sessions, live card pulls, and I've pinned many of the past group Reiki sessions to the featured section right at the top of the group. So time is not linear. You can still receive that energy. So go back through and find one and check it out and see what it's all about. And if you're ready for more, if you want one-on-one attention, you can visit the website. All of the links are in the show notes, and you can book your own sessions there. If you have any questions, please let me know. And speaking of questions, if you join the Energy Within Facebook group, please make sure you answer the questions. If you don't want to give me your email address, that's perfectly fine, but do still answer the questions. So I should wrap this up. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you next time.